It's a cold, overcast, dark and dreary day today. We're supposed to be getting hit with a 5 or 6 day storm that's supposed to be bringing a lot of rain and a lot of wind with it. My lettuce bed that I planted a few months ago has been open air all this time. I try to leave it open as long as possible, as late into the year as possible, as long as the birds aren't eating it. But with all of this rain that's coming, I don't want to waterlog my bed. So I picked up some new plastic today, so I'm gonna get that lettuce bed covered so that it doesn't get waterlogged. The issue that we have around here a lot is rot. So it doesn't usually freeze bad enough to kill the lettuce, but if it's just exposed to rain, all the rain that we have in the winter, we'll lose it all to rot. Same with peas and some other winter crops. So I have some 6 mil Visqueen. It's not fancy greenhouse plastic. And I usually only have to buy it every, I don't know, 5 years or so, because I reuse it as long as I can. And the last of what I've had from the last purchase finally was falling apart. So I had to go buy a new roll today. Clear. This roll isn't as clear as the last roll I bought. Still gonna let plenty of light through, but it's a little disappointing. I'm just now noticing this. I looked at it and I thought, did I get white? It says clear on the box. So we're gonna make it work. So this is my lettuce bed. It's about 3 feet tall and wide. This frame my husband built a few years ago that allows us not only to put plastic over it in the wintertime, but in the summertime we put shade cloth over it. And we're able to grow lettuce, even in hot weather, pretty much all year, between the shade cloth and maybe a little, extra watering in that area when we have like a heat wave in the summer. What I usually do is I cover it. It hangs down on both sides. This is 10 feet wide, maybe it's 12 feet wide, 10 feet wide. So it'll hang down about a foot on either side. And then I leave enough extra on the ends that I can pull it together and clamp it shut so that it is enclosed. So I'll just show you so far what we have growing. We have a romaine variety. We have a red, I think this one's called Red Flame. And this is a curly green leaf variety. I don't know what the varieties they are exactly because we bought these as starts from a local nursery a couple of months ago. And I'm probably going to tear most of this one out. It's already starting to kind of bolt, which is really weird for this time of year. And it's just kind of a leathery leaf. We haven't enjoyed this one, so I'll probably pull this one out. The Red Flame always does really, really well for us, as do most romaine varieties. And I have a whole flat in the garage of, I don't know, 7 or 8 other varieties of lettuce and greens that I will fill in this spot with, as well as the rest of this bed. And I will probably have to find other places to plant it too, because I think I've got more than what will fill up that bed. But I really love growing the greens in the winter. I've got probably another 3 weeks or so before the other starts are ready to go out, maybe a little longer. But I want to keep this covered with plastic, kind of regulate the temperature a little bit, regulate the moisture, and it'll be a better situation when I am ready to plant the stuff that I have started in the garage. This area will be a little bit more prepared for it. As a two-person job. The next biggest challenge is getting it up and over the frame without snagging it or tearing it on anything. Like I said, this is easier as a two-person job, but I'm the only adult here today, so I get to do this by myself. There are a lot of different ways that you can harvest lettuce. For us, what we usually do is we harvest the larger outer leaves. Sometimes they've been touching the ground too much and they're either just really dirty or the slugs are on them. This one actually looks pretty good. So if there are some slug-eaten ones, I'll pick those off and just leave them on the ground. I'll let the slugs finish them. And so this is usually what our harvests look like. These are kind of small right now compared to what they will be in the spring. But that way we have lettuce, it just continually produces for us. As we pick the outer leaves, the inner part of the head keeps growing, keeps producing leaves that we're able to eat. In the summer, I grow cherry tomatoes and cucumbers and things on this arch. And most of the arches I've broken down for the winter because I'm going to be moving the garden next summer. But I'm going to leave this one because it helps hold the plastic on. It's actually pretty useful. We get a lot of wind gusts down here that will lift the plastic right off of here. So here's the end of my tunnel, and I've got enough overhang almost to reach the ground here. I'm not concerned about it. And then I use these really strong clamps, a lot stronger than the plastic ones, and I just kind of wrap it like a present. All I'm really trying to do is keep the wind from blowing it off. I'm not trying to create an airtight greenhouse or anything. So here we have it. Hangs down over the edge a little bit. Again, it just helps keep the beds from just getting overly saturated. I have some dahlias in this pot that I leave over winter. They do great. I just kind of tuck it down in here. I may have to weigh this down. Sometimes I have to put rocks on there. This storm that's coming is supposed to have a lot of wind, so I probably should, but I'm going to leave it for now, keep an eye on it, and see how it holds up. So one of the questions I get most frequently when I share my gardening and the things that I'm growing is, well, besides the question of like, why do you grow that? It's kind of the question more along the lines of, is it cheaper to grow your own food? What's the advantage, essentially? And you know, there are people who would argue that it is cheaper, and I don't disagree with them. I also don't know how you can really fully answer that question. I gotta put this heavy roll away. Hang on. One of the reasons I think that's kind of a challenging question to answer is because there are costs and benefits and rewards and harvests of many different kinds when you're gardening, when you're growing your own food, that don't necessarily equate to dollars. So for example, I grow cabbage every few years. I love growing cabbage. It is absolutely not a cheaper way to get cabbage. If you want a big head of cabbage, just go to the store and buy one, if that's all you care about. But I love growing cabbage. The plants are beautiful. I love the experience of watching it form and develop and wonder, is it going to form a head this year or not? Because in our climate, it can be a little bit iffy. Sometimes it gets too warm, too quick for it to develop a head. It'll just decide to bolt instead. But I love the flavor of the cabbage. I love the plant in the garden. I love the experience of growing it. But I grow it for fun. Cabbage is something I grow for fun. And of course, we'll make sauerkraut, or we eat it. We do things with it. But it's not cheaper. If you factor in the time, the labor, it isn't necessarily cheaper, but there's so much other reward to it besides just $1 saved. The same is true for me for growing lettuce, which we grow almost every winter. Last winter was our first time where we didn't have a very good crop. We left the country for a month. I put seeds in plants in right before we went, and when I came back, they were gone. I don't know if the birds ate them or what, but the biggest advantage for me about growing lettuce is we can grow all year. We can have fresh, like copious amounts of lettuce all year, and it does not cost us much at all, especially if we would otherwise be buying organic lettuce in the store, which we usually only have like 3 or 4 choices of what type. So for me, it's more about the abundance for the cost, like how much lettuce we can have available at any one given time. We can share it. We can have huge salads every night if we want. We can have lots and lots of different varieties. I think I'll probably grow more than a dozen varieties by this time next year. We can grow it all year, but more than anything, there's a very kind of mentally, emotionally, spiritually grounding effect that it has on me to grow my own food, especially this time of year. It's mid-November here in Southern Oregon. It's cold, it's wet, and I'm coming out of, this is like the end of a few months where I basically lived outside all day. And so there's this sort of like emotional transition phase where I'm feeling kind of melancholy about not being able to be outside all day. Even if I had the right clothing and wanted to be outside all day this time of year, there's only so much I can do. You know, there's not a lot I can cultivate or till or tend to. There's only so much I can do. And so I have to sort of like mentally prepare myself for the longer dark periods, the cold, the wet, the mud. We get so much mud here. And so if there's anything I can grow that allows me to sort of transition from summer into winter, allows me to be outside more and to feel purposeful, I'm all in for that. So there are a lot of reasons why we grow something as simple as lettuce. It's probably one of our most, what we would call, say, one of our foundation crops. Besides tomatoes. I love my tomatoes. If you know me at all, you know I'm obsessed with my tomatoes. And it's such a joy to come out on a cold, dreary, overcast day like today, pick a big bowl of lettuce, all the texture, all the color, all the variety. My fingers get cold, my nose starts running, and I'm just so happy to be outside. And I take that big bowl of bounty in the house and I, show my husband, and his response of excitement and awe and wonder and anticipation of the salad that it's going to become. That's so much a part of the reward too. And he and I work side by side in different ways to make this garden happen. And I just really appreciate, I'm generally the one doing most of the harvesting, and so there's a lot of solitude for me out here. There's a lot of just kind of grounding, centering of my mind, and even if I'm not necessarily trying to, it's just kind of the natural effect of gardening. So, why grow lettuce? Why grow food? For some people, it wouldn't be that experience. It wouldn't be that grounding experience. This area out here, can't really see it through the fence very well, and with my head in the way, that's a whole new garden being developed. We've grown corn and some things in there the past few years off and on that the deer don't eat. But generally, this whole fenced-in area is where I garden stuff that the deer would eat. And since we're moving this garden out there next year, this might be the last time I grow lettuce in this particular spot. But the system has worked really well for us. We just get a really good, long, almost year-round harvest if we play our cards right. So, is it cheaper? Maybe, maybe not. But it's so worth it to me.